Okay, here we go. I bet you thought there wasn't going to be an intro today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is. I hope it's good to be where you are, because it is good to be here. My name is Baltimore Fats, and this is the continuation of Mud City. Almost made it. Okay, but I forgot to close the window. All right, so here we go. So, yeah, my big plan the other day, yesterday, to, carve out a big chunk of this didn't come to fruition. About 10 minutes into my next video, I got a phone call that I could not ignore, and then by that point my momentum was lost and I couldn't get back into it. So we're going to pick up again today here with Tench Tilman. I was talking about him at the close of the last one, and I'm going to set my timer here and see how far we get today. Again, I haven't gone that far ahead here. So let's see what I remember to get to. All right, so just touching base, he's the son of one of these wealthy plantation lawyers, right? And he ends up being George Washington's, main man, right? This is his boy, right? And his guy Friday, but he comes from a loyalist family, which is interesting, right? And I just wanted to demonstrate something just quickly before I talk about his. So his father, and I can't believe I missed this in the other video. This goes to show how, I need to slow down a little bit maybe. His father, he at first favored compromise between England and the colonies, while he called for the repeal of the Intolerable Acts, which was so abhorred by colonists. He at the same time denounced the Boston Tea Party. He was regarded, however, as a loyalist and was placed under arrest by Pennsylvania state authorities in 1778. I mean, the war is in full swing. And his father, George Washington's personal assistant at the time, his father is arrested, for being a loyalist, for being loyal to the crown. I just think that's amazing, I mean, could you imagine today if that were to happen with the press, if they wanted it to be out there or not, if they didn't want that information out there, they would squash it. But if they wanted to exploit that, oh my God, it would be it would be an excrement show. I want to try not to swear if I can, although I swear like a sailor in everyday life, so I'm sorry if they slipped through. Right, so just to give you, and his family his brothers, not only does his father get arrested, but somewhere in here they say, I think, that and maybe I'll get to it, that his brothers fought for the crown. They joined the British Army. And yet, this guy is George Washington's right-hand man. So I wanted to talk about, he goes to the college. Oh, wait, no, let me jump back here, right? So just going back, I want to try to find out a little bit more. Like, they mentioned his great grandfather, Richard Tilman. This is British Navy guy, right? This is the one who started it all over here for the Tilman family. And it's, I'm guessing, I didn't go fishing for this information, but I'm guessing that as he retired from the British Navy, he was rewarded with a plantation contract over in Maryland. Who knows how many hundreds or thousands of acres he got. But so that's his great-grandfather. So I wanted to find out, and it says, and it's interesting the way they leak this information in. And like, when you look at the Wikipedia for his father, William Tilman, I believe, right? Was it William? Tench's father. It doesn't mention that his father was born in Kent. You get that information from his grandson, which I think is interesting. So I wanted to look up Kent a little bit, right? I don't know that much about Kent. Bang, the first thing that shows up, the red and the white, which is, just proving to be, the color code to follow if you want to get back to the idea of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers as, being the organization or a part of the organizations that really, dug out and refortified the structures that were there, At least that's sort of the concept that I'm working with, right? And but I wanted to show the Canterbury Cathedral. So this is where his great-grandfather went to school, or went to church, rather, and was in the province where he grew up, in Kent, right? I don't know how far away this would have been from where great-granddad Tilman went, but I wanted to show this building just to give you a sense. They say that it was started like in 590 AD, right? And was overhauled completely in like 1070 AD. So that's like 1,000 years ago already, right? And look at the size of this building. They built this, they say they built it 1,000 years ago, right? At least the main structures of it. And let's see if I can get up on it. How small these people are, compared to this building. And there's been videos out there, a bunch of different researchers have done videos on how it's possible that they had kind of like 3D printers constructing these, and, when you look at the precision of them, they could be onto something there. 1,000 years ago, it's hard to imagine how they would have built this, How many people were living in England in 1000 AD, and how many of them would have been capable of building something like this, And the worst part about it, the sort of world that we live in today is that people they shrug that information off. They just, they learn it. It's just a number in a book, or, a year they heard in the tour of this amazing building if they went on it, like if they were tourists or whatever, and they don't connect what 1,000 years is, how long ago that is, and, sort of compare what this is to, the architecture of today, or just even like a few hundred years ago. How did they, how did things regress to the point that they did, And so I just thought this was interesting connection for his great-grandfather to, growing up in around a building like this, probably went to church here. And again, everything about it and everything about these old churches scream, a different civilization, right? Whatever was here before. All right, so enough of that. Let's get back to Tench here. So he goes to the College of Philadelphia, where he graduates at the age of 17. Right? And this college was founded by Benjamin Franklin. Right? And we all know who Benjamin Franklin was, right? And the interesting thing is that he founds this school, right, in 1749, but like in 1750, like the next year, he takes off for England, and he stays for 20 years. And in 1751, we know that the barrister, Charles Carroll, the barrister, went over there to his Middle Temple or whatever, and we had that John Dickinson over there at the same time, and I'm sure if I were to go down that list, I bet I find another founding father or two. I got too excited with just the two information. I cut myself short there. I should have looked through the whole thing, but I'm not going back on that now. When I do this thing for real someday, not that this isn't for real, but, when I get into every nook and cranny, which I think, I'm going to have to do. And I'm sorry if I say that every episode. So let's see. All right, so the academy opened for secondary schooling of boys in August of 1751 and was a charity school. I don't understand what that means, but one thing I wanted to point out here was, and I'm sure these are all important people, I can't do it. The college educated many of the future leaders of the United States. 21 members of the Continental Congress. 21. 9 signers of the Declaration of Independence. 9. And 5 signers of the Constitution. All came out of this school that Benjamin Franklin started in 1751, right before, coincidentally enough or conveniently enough, right before he goes over to live in London for 20 years. Who knows what information, he was pumping. It was like a funnel. It's like a straight line from London to Philadelphia, to the college, for all these revolutionary figures, for the patriot defector of the loyalist sympathizing Tilman, right? Goes to this school. Yeah, he defected all right. Yeah, he was a patriot. Yeah, so interesting that, okay, so that's his educational background. But one thing that is going to come up here, let's get into his Revolutionary War service here. He, like it mentions that he, in 1776, he was commissioned as Washington's aide de camp. Right, here's where it says, like, Tilman's patriot loyalty split his family. He became the first among his 11 siblings. Again, another good Catholic family there. Yeah, 11 siblings joined the revolutionary cause. Most of the Tilman family served the king, as did many other rich families at the time. Right? So here's where they're drawing that divide, right? The wealthy people, the rich people whose family ties came over from England are serving in service to the king, but then like the immigrants and your everyday folk, this is who they're selling, is fighting the revolution. When what's happening, and we're going to find out as we get further on, it's that classic problem, reaction, solution gambit, right? I mean, that's the game they're going to play. They're going to set it all up to make it look like there's going to be a revolution, and they're just going to keep everything right to the crown, to the Tudors, the Stuarts, and I don't know how that passes along. What is it today? Is it the Windsors? Is that who they are? I'm sorry, guys. Sorry, British UK people. I know I'm not up on what family Queen Elizabeth is from, but it's a German family, if I'm not mistaken, right? Which is weird to me, but anyway. So yeah, here it says his brothers Richard and Philemon served in the British military, and William here, which is interesting, William chose his father's path, the loyalist, right, and studied law in England. But when you click on him, it doesn't say that he studied law in England. It just says that he went to the same school that his brother did, right? College of Pennsylvania. Now, University does. And this family, the Tilman family, is the blue and the white, which is also part of that Inns of, that the Middle Temple and all of that. There was a blue and white crest in there, and that. Let's see. But so it doesn't say anything about him going over to England here anyway. At least not as far as I've read. But he was nominated by President John Adams to a seat as a federal judge in the circuit court. Right. So again, super connected to the new, the new republic that was just established, right? But he was a loyalist who went and studied law, but then bang, at second rank, John Adams was number 2, right? He gets to be he's a federal judge, this loyalist federal judge, right out the gates, right? It's dirty. I mean, how did they miss this at the time? Whoops, did I go too far? And so I wanted to, let's see, how far else can we go with just how tight, how important this Tench Tilman was. Yeah, here, after the siege of Yorktown culminated in a Patriot victory and an honor for Tilman, whom Washington picked to carry the surrender papers to the Continental Congress in Philadelphia. So the terms of surrender that Cornwallis had to sign, Tilman gets to bring to the Continental Congress to end the Revolutionary War. This guy, this son of a loyalist farmer, lawyer, carries the surrender papers. I just think that's crazy. How does this stuff happen? So it goes to show how important he is there. And what else did they say about him? I wanted to mention too, he does marry his sister, which no one seems to bat an eye at. Washington isn't curious about that. Or not his sister, rather his first cousin. He marries his first cousin. No one seems to care about that, you know? Doesn't hurt him politically or professionally in any way, shape, or form that he marries his first cousin. I don't know how common a practice that was in, colonial era America, but, you know. And so I wanted to talk about this painting again. I kind of glossed over it in the other one. This was done by that Peale, and where I'm going to use this to launch back into him, because again, these connections, and I want to mention briefly, let's just talk about this. So this is him here. This is Tilman here, right? That's Lafayette, right? Super important guy, right? The French connection. And one of the things, how I wanted to find out about where he learned French. I tried to dig back for maybe his mother was French or something. But it's possible he learned it at the College of Philadelphia. They cram a lot of knowledge into a kid to graduate him at 17, I imagine, especially to springboard them to the career and the success that they had. But anyway, you see Washington's got his hand in his vest. That's a signal, right? I'm sure this whole, his hip cocked hair, I'm sure all of this gesturing is code for something, right? And he's holding something here, and I don't know if it'll... Whoa, can I get in on what he's holding? And this is interesting here. Let's see. Okay, guys, I cannot read that, but if anyone wants to find this and see what this says, if anyone can read that, that would be amazing. I mean, we got October 19th, 1780. I can't really tell what that is, 85, 83. 86, 80, I don't know. Interesting. I never, it's the first I've ever looked at that. So, clues here, they mean something, right? Or they want us to believe. So, there's him, right? So, and I wanted to mention, too, like, trying to connect, and I haven't done any sort of research on the, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, which would be getting started right around this time in Bunker Hill in Boston. So they, that the initial website for them, for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, states that they started by fortifying Bunker Hill. But perhaps the connection to Maryland and to Baltimore comes right through this guy, because Mount Carroll, that manor there, I think that was the secret meeting spot. That's where they all kind of got together. I mean, these painters go there to paint some of the portraits of these guys too, and perhaps he was a liaison through General George Washington in that whole U.S. Army Corps of Engineer bit, All right, so let's move on to the artist again, because he gets crazy. Where was that portrait? Charles Willson Peale. Yeah, you. All right, so they say he was a saddle maker, and interesting, I don't think I brought it up, but that Tench Tilman started his career right out of College of Philadelphia. He started as a saddle maker and importer, and that's, interesting connection there between those two. I think it's interesting that they mention this John Beale Bordley character and friends as people instrumental in raising money, but they don't mention the barrister who was really the guy. And the barrister enlisted Charles Carrollton, the signer, as well. And so, it really goes back to this John Hacilius guy. All right, so we'll start with him, right? Because he is the one who teaches. He trades for a saddle. He said, he teaches Charles Willson Peale how to paint for the saddle, right? If you want to believe that. And he paints a lot of He's very famous, and he paints, very famous Philadelphia type people. He paints for the barons of Baltimore, the illegitimate son of Benedict Calvert here, illegitimate of Charles Calvert V. I think was he the party animal? I can't remember. But I'm guessing if he had illegitimate children, it's a fair assumption. So in 1762, he became the first instructor of the Charles Willson Peale. Now, this guy, Hecilius, he painted a lot of pictures of Margaret Tillman Carroll. This is one, right? Again, holding the carnation, and who knows what this hand gesture means. This carnation is really important, and she holds long stem roses too. She's holding a long stem one. That's Montclair behind her here. And I believe they say that this is Hecilius. John Hecilius, Margaret Tillman. She definitely liked getting her portrait painted. That's for sure. Here's another one. That's the same one. Here, this one she's holding it. John Hecilius again. This one she's holding it upright. Can we get up on this one? Nope, it won't let me get up further on this one. So interesting. Again, her hand pointing in a way that I'm sure is signifying something. So that's how connected this Hecilius guy is. He teaches Willson Peale and says to the Carrolls, hey, this guy needs to go over and he needs to study with Benjamin West. I think I called him something different in an early video. Benjamin West, Benji here. Right, and Benji's an interesting character. He was this Royal Academy must be pretty important for artists and stuff. Oh, look at that building. He was offered a knighthood, but declined it. He said, "Yeah, I'm not so worm-like. I'm not gonna be knighted, thank you." And he wanted to be a peer, and maybe somebody, because I can't go into it now. I don't really understand what this peerage means. It's a legal system, historically hereditary titles. Can someone, maybe, idiot guide me to what a peer is? I'd love to know. How is being a peer different or better or worse than being a knight? I don't, see, but he was born in Pennsylvania. He's a Yank, right? And he goes over and he becomes the president of this art school in London. That's amazing, right? Who'd have seen that coming? Right? And let's see. See, Native Americans taught him how to paint. What? See, you guys we're almost even now, me and you. I didn't really look that deep into this guy yet, so here we go. You're just going with me as I rabbit hole a little bit. So sorry for dead air, or if I scroll too fast for you guys who may be reading ahead, trying to get any information. The College of Philadelphia comes up again. All right, there's Ben. Wait, did he paint this? He must have, right? This guy created this myth for us, right here. Benjamin West, the teacher of Charles Willson Peale, and John Hecilius, whatever. Unbelievable. West was a close friend of Franklin. Of course, they were buddies. All these guys were buddies, right? They're making the myths. They're writing the lies. Let's see. He has some royal patronage. All right, the primary leaders of. Okay, that's just. Here we go. This is what I saw earlier. 1772, King George appoints him the historical painter to the court. It's 1,000 pounds with, well, if it was 400 pounds, what is that? 400,000 pounds, right? A year. That's a good gig. Hi, Trissy Edge. I've seen your name before, but I don't know if it's a combination name. Is that your name? I wish I knew how to pronounce it, but thank you. Yeah, here we go. uh, Thank you so much for commenting. Right, yeah, he painted a series of large canvases showing X from the life of Edward III at Windsor Castle. So he's instrumental. He's painting these pictures that really tell the story that's going to be sold down the line. Him and, this John Hesselian, he paints a bunch of famous people. And then Peale. And I want to get into Peale a little bit more. Just crazy what's going to come up, right? He's also has the first museum. Look at this painting. This is a self-portrait of him in 1882. What's he doing? He's lifting the veil. Are you kidding me? Telling you. Look at all that history I created back there. Yep, that was me. He kind of looks like... Can I get up on him? Who is he? He looks like somebody. What does this painting show? What are these things? What is that? Is that his dog back here? I bet you that's Margot Tillman Carroll back there. But this is, I guess, his museum, maybe. He's lifting the veil back. He started this first, history museum or whatever. His brother did. They had, mammoth skeletons in there. I mean, unbelievable. This guy started with the funds created by Charles Carroll Barrister and the other Charles Carroll, the signer, Carrollton, right? Career as a painter, American Revolution. He served. Of course he served. He painted portraits of American nobles in Philadelphia in 1776. Get out of town. I don't believe it. He served in the Pennsylvania State Assembly, right at that high time of the war there. Look at these people he painted. And again, Alexander Hamilton. Alexander Hamilton. I don't know about him, man. There's something curious about how prolific he was, and it's not smelling right, and I'm going to tell you why. Not only is his rags to riches story just one of those too good to be true things, his output is so too good to be true. Maybe the musical is an attempt to squash. Somebody was getting close. Somebody was getting close to unlocking that, and then the musical came. I don't know. It's just something doesn't ring right there. And so he had a large variety of birds that Peale himself acquired. He was a bird hunter, right? And in many instances, he taught himself taxidermy. That's not creepy at all. He's the first to display a mastodon skeleton, right? And Jefferson, right? And Comte de Buffon. I don't know. They had written back and forth about what's this painting? Raphael and Tatian Peale, the Staircase Group. Interesting. This kid's kind of creepy looking with those eyes. Anyway, I can't get sidetracked there. The museum was the first to adopt this Linnean taxonomy. The stark contrast to what other people were doing at the time, right? Does it say here that he has? The museum would eventually fail, but, yeah, P.T. Barnum had an interest in it. Of course he did. And the American Philosophical Society. Where is that? That's in Philadelphia? Yeah, okay. They were quick to gather up these exhibits that he had. But there's more. There's more to come. I wonder who Moses Kimbrell is. A politician and showman. They're what? They're not mutually exclusive? I don't understand. Yeah, a politician and a showman. Go figure. Yeah. Peale had a slave. His name was Moses. I'm going to be disappointed if I don't see. Oh, here we go. This is it. All right. So he built a mechanical drawing device called a physionotrace. Yeah, I can't, part of my charm is the inability to not pronounce things correctly, right? Physionotrance. An instrument is a descendant of the pantograph. That's a little bit easier to say, right? So these were fancy copying devices. There's my half hour. Shoot. All right, I'm going to roll for a little while longer because I'm close. Stop. And I want to get through the Margot Tillman, George Washington thing, and then I'll call it quits for this one. All right, so it's this copy machine that does these profiles, but the other one that I wanted to get to in his expertise here, right? Well, he sent a watercolor sketch of this thing with a detailed explanation to Thomas Jefferson, which is, I guess Thomas Jefferson wanted to build one or whatever. Is now held with the Jefferson Papers in the Library of Congress, but he obtained the patent rights for a polygraph from its inventor. Just John Isaac Hawkins invented a lot of stuff, huh? Gonna have to, if he doesn't come up in Baltimore, I'm not gonna bother. But somebody might want to get on him. So this polygraph is really interesting. It's not like the Maury Povich lie detector that we know today. Oh, so well, the lie detector determines that this is a lie. But it copies things. Like somebody's on one end, right, and it makes two other copies or other copies. Very convenient machine for spreading the lies quickly. It was famously used by Thomas Jefferson. Famously, he made no bones about it. Yep, I'm copying my stuff by polygraph. And this Henry Latrobe is another. He might come in with I think we're going to get into him when we get into the architects. He designs the Capitol after the War of 1812, I think, or his son does. But is an important name to Baltimore. There's Latrobe Park that we used to go to all the time with my friends and my son when our children were younger. Latrobe Park. Okay. So this doesn't go too much longer. I want to get to Margot Tillman and George Washington real quick because it's funny and give me a picture of her. Yeah, this is a good one. All right. So as it was stated in the other video, she had a greenhouse and she was very famous for her gardens. And it turns out that many Revolutionary War leaders and founding fathers consulted with her over quote-unquote gardening. Okay. Now, in this day and age, and in the world of secret codes and Pizzagate and everything like that, when I started to read this correspondence, of course, when you read up on these conspiracy things the way that I have over the years, and I try to follow all of them, my closest friends joke that I collect conspiracy theories, and I believe all of them are true, which isn't quite true, but you know what I'm saying. Of course, because, when you live in a world where anything's possible, isn't it? Connecting those dots with, using code and letters and stuff, I'm going to go into this. But was consulted by many of the founding fathers, and she helped them start gardens, which I think is an interesting thing that may be followed up on at some point, is how all these founding fathers seem to relish their gardens, right? And so let's get into this a little bit. Hopefully I can get through it quickly. All right, so he wrote this letter to her. The barrister's dead. I think he dies in 1780. So this is September of 1789, and he's president now. He was sworn in April of this year, so you know, 5 or 6 months later, he's writing to Margot Tillman, right? And I mean, just I love the language. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but a person having been lately sent to me from Europe, a person having been lately sent to me from Europe in the capacity of gardener. Oh, what a way to say, I hired a gardener from England. A person lately sent to me. Like this person was property. Did Washington own slaves in 1789? I don't know. I think we might get his name in this. I don't know. Who professes a knowledge in the culture of rare plants and care of a greenhouse. I am desirous to profit of the very obliging offer you were pleased some time ago to make me. I mean, that's how he wrote. This was the first president, just as George Washington, the 12th president or whatever he was. I shall be happy to receive such aids as you can well spare, as it will not impair your collection, trusting that this will be the rule of your bounty, as I have requested General Williams to give you notice when an opportunity offers to transport the trees or plants in the freshest state to Mount Vernon, and I will pay the expenses. Right? I mean, what language? And so then it goes on. George Washington had not anticipated the enthusiasm in which Williams embraced his assignment or the extent of Mrs. Carroll's generosity. You know, and it's funny because the reputation George Washington slept here and that he was a philanderer. And it just made me funny that when I saw that they were writing letters, I was just joking to myself. I wonder if these letters will say, "Oh, it was so great to stay at Mount Clare." Yeah, a few weeks back. Yeah, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But so it says Williams wrote George Washington that he had proper for transporting the trees in about 2 weeks. So it was not just commodious, but there's something interesting in here. Where is it? Maybe it's. Let's see. I have been rather unfortunate in the shaddocks that were long intended for your excellency's use, attempting to engraft on them my 2 other sorts of fruit have failed. So he's doing experiments, he's grafting fruit. He's trying to have failed either for want of skill in my gardener. That gardener's no good, right? You gotta set him straight, right? Or that of being in a proper stock. You will therefore please her to accept with him a lemon tree, 2 young plants, and a few seedlings. Okay, this is not. There's something really interesting coming in here. I didn't think it was this far. I didn't realize it was this far down. Here we go. Okay, so again, they go back and forth about these plants, right? Which is interesting. This is, but I must wait for an opportunity. Allow me, sir, to explain a word. Mrs. Carroll is indecisive only because she is not quite certain which are the most suitable and which will be the most fortunate and acceptable. Her garden contains but one tree which bears both lemons and oranges. Bears both lemons and oranges? She has a tree that bears both lemons and oranges. She thought there were 2, and she was quite disappointed that she didn't have 2 trees that bore lemons and oranges. She said, she said, must be sent. I presume to tell her that you would not permit her to make the sacrifice. That is, a great burden of fine fruit would render safe conveyance impracticable. All right, so anyway, it's just funny they have all this talk of trees and fruits and plants and stuff, and if you'd play that substitution game, who knows what they could be talking about here. So anyway, I'm gonna wrap it up here. I think I did a good job getting through the Tillmans and their connection through the Carrolls, through Mount Clare and Washington, and how important the Carroll family was. And I mean, I didn't even I see. I'm looking. There were windows open that I didn't even get to, sadly. But again, this is just more information about how important these families were, and there was one bit here I just wanted to mention briefly. I saw he served as a volunteer without pay for much of the time he served Washington. Yeah, he didn't get paid over the table like the government or whomever didn't write him a check, but he was getting paid. Anyway, okay. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope everybody's doing well wherever they are. So if you like what's going on over here, please like, share, and subscribe. And I wanted to mention that I did start a Facebook and Instagram for Baltimore Fats, because tomorrow I'm getting into the streets. I have an appointment downtown, and so I thought it would be fun that maybe if I get the opportunity, because it could be a time-consuming appointment, which I'll get into in a video if I make one about it. But I'm hoping to do a little, snapshot taking downtown tomorrow morning, and I thought it would be fun to like Instagram that stuff. So if anybody's interested in that, please Instagram me at Baltimore Fats, and like I said, I did a Facebook as well. And so a little more shameless self-promotion there. But anyway, so okay, so until the next one, cheers guys, and thanks again.